The 2025 Formula One season is gearing up for some major shakeups, and it looks like things are about to get a whole lot more interesting. There's a buzz in the air, as the FIA has decided to implement some changes that could drastically impact the way we see the sport. These adjustments aren't just about making the competition more exciting, they're aimed at improving driver safety, performance, and the overall spectacle. And the most exciting part? It's not just the cars that are changing, the very rules of the game are being tweaked. The addition of driver cooling systems and a revamp of the DRS regulations are set to bring a new dimension to racing. As we head into 2025, we're asking, will these changes shake up the title fight? Which teams will capitalize on these new rules? Let's break it all down and see what's in store. In the wake of some serious criticism from the fans, the FIA is stepping up its game. The changes they're rolling out have the potential to make the upcoming season one of the most unpredictable yet. From how cars handle the heat to how they use DRS for overtaking, these tweaks could change the dynamics of every race. Let's take a look at what we can expect and why these new regulations might just be what Formula One needs. So, what exactly are these new changes? Let's start with something that could really affect the driver cooling. Starting from 2025, when temperatures at races exceed a certain threshold, teams will be required to equip their cars with cooling systems for the drivers. This new rule kicks in if the official weather forecast predicts temperatures above 30.5 G, or if the race director declares it a heat hazard before the race starts. It's a much-needed move to help drivers stay safe and perform at their best in extreme heat. However, this added safety comes at a cost. To accommodate the cooling systems, the FIA is imposing an additional weight requirement for the cars -5 extra kilos for the entire weekend. Now, while the drivers might feel more comfortable, the extra weight could have an impact on performance. It's a balancing act, and one that could influence how teams approach their strategy in warmer races. Will the additional weight slow down the cars, or will the cooling systems make it easier for drivers to push harder without worrying about overheating? Now, let's talk about the DRS changes that are coming in 2025. Over the years, the DRS drag reduction system has become a crucial tool for overtaking, but it's also been at the center of some controversy. One of the most talked about moments in recent F1 history was McLaren's innovation with the rear wing in 2024. The team had developed a trick that allowed them to reduce drag in a way that some felt was a bit too clever for its own good. While the FIA didn't declare it illegal, they did instruct McLaren to make adjustments while they investigated further. Now, in response, the FIA is introducing new rules to prevent teams from using similar tricks. The minimum gap between the slots in the rear wing has been reduced, with the gap now between 9.4 millimeters and 13 millimeters. Previously, it was between 10 and 15 millimeters. This change is expected to reduce the amount of drag teams can shed at high speeds, which could make overtaking harder. On top of that, there will now be only 2 DRS positions available, and once the system is deactivated, the rear wing must return to its original state. These adjustments could have a huge impact on how easy it is for drivers to pass each other on track, especially in high-speed zones. The big question here is, will these changes make racing more competitive, or will they just make overtaking even more difficult? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: the FIA is taking a strong stance on how teams use their aerodynamic advantages. As we look ahead to 2026, there are even more changes on the horizon, especially when it comes to active aerodynamics. The FIA has already clarified the rules for this system, which is something both drivers and team bosses have been keeping a close eye on. The goal is to ensure that the technology is used in a way that doesn't disrupt the natural flow of the racing. Active aero systems are designed to adjust the car's aerodynamics based on the track conditions, helping teams optimize their car's performance for different situations. One of the key changes is that the front wing will now have 2 adjustable flaps that will change based on whether the car is cornering or speeding down a straight. This allows the teams to tailor the downforce of the car for each section of the track. To make sure things don't get out of hand, the FIA has added physical stops to prevent the flaps from rotating too much. This is a crucial move to keep everything in check and ensure that no team gains an unfair advantage with overly aggressive adjustments. And it's not just the front wing that's being tweaked. There are changes coming to the rear wing too. The rules now state that teams can use 2 or 3 elements to create their rear wing, giving them more flexibility. This change is aimed at helping teams better manage the airflow and downforce of their cars, while also making sure the cars remain stable at high speeds. the floor of the car is also getting some attention in the 2026 regulations. The floor body has been redefined to increase the amount of downforce the car can generate, which is essential for improving grip and stability during high-speed cornering. Teams have also had to adjust the sidewalls and fence bodywork, which play a major role in controlling the airflow around the car. These changes should help prevent any major loss of downforce, something that could have led to slower lap times and less exciting racing. In addition to these changes, the FIA has introduced new deflectors and debris guards around the wheels to further improve safety and aerodynamics. These revisions are designed to keep the cars more stable and less prone to damage from debris, ensuring that races are less likely to be interrupted by random collisions or tire failures. But it's not just about aerodynamics and safety. There's a clear focus on making the cars more competitive across the grid. What's most interesting about these updates is that they're part of a bigger effort to reduce the performance gap between teams. The top teams, with their massive budgets, have always had a clear advantage in terms of developing faster, more efficient cars. The new regulations aim to level the playing field, making it harder for one team to dominate. This is crucial for maintaining the competitive nature of the sport, especially as we move into this new era of F1. All these changes are part of a larger vision for the future of Formula One. As the sport evolves, the governing body, the FIA, is under constant scrutiny, and some of the recent decisions have raised a lot of questions. One of the hot topics lately is the idea of permanent stewards officials who would be available throughout the season to handle disputes and offer consistent rulings. F1 fans have often criticized the inconsistency in decisions, and the hope is that permanent stewards would bring more clarity and fairness. However, this idea isn't without its complications. FIA President Ben Salama recently spoke about it, saying he supports the concept, but there's a significant roadblock: the financial cost. If this system were to be put in place, it would mean that drivers and team bosses would have to pay for the steward services out of their own pockets, which is a tough pill to swallow. It's a scenario that feels a bit like asking people to pay for a judge in a court case, something that might not sit well with many. Despite all the challenges the FIA faces, one thing is clear: they're doing everything they can to keep F1 exciting, fair, and competitive. With the 2025 and 2026 seasons approaching, it's clear that the governing body is committed to pushing the sport in a new direction. But the big question remains: will these changes succeed in making racing closer and more unpredictable, or will we see another dominant team emerge, just as we saw with Red Bull in recent years? The future of Formula One is on the line, and with these new rules, we may just see a more exciting competitive era unfold before our eyes. As always, we want to hear your thoughts on these changes. Do you think they'll make F1 better? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The 2025 Formula One season is gearing up for some major shakeups, and it looks like things are about to get a whole lot more interesting. There's a buzz in the air, as the FIA has decided to implement some changes that could drastically impact the way we see the sport. These adjustments aren't just about making the competition more exciting. They're aimed at improving driver safety, performance, and the overall spectacle. And the most exciting part? It's not just the cars that are changing. The very rules of the game are being tweaked. The addition of driver cooling systems and a revamp of the DRS regulations are set to bring a new dimension to racing. As we head into 2025, we're asking, will these changes shake up the title fight? Which teams will capitalize on these new rules? Let's break it all down and see what's in store.